Hello and good evening everyone to the Parents Productivity Booster webinar. Now this special webinar is designed. Let's try that again. Hi everyone, welcome to Parents Productivity Booster. My name is CJ Sohao from Unwrap Your Success. Now Parents Productivity Booster is a special webinar that I've designed for you because I recognize that the struggle that parents go through in terms of having time for themselves or having time to achieve their own goals or even to have a social life at the moment is just not happening for a lot of parents, and it wasn't happening for me as well. So I'm going to share with you on this webinar specific strategies, tools and techniques that I've used to be able to set my goals and also meet my own goals as well. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this with you, and I hope that you'll enjoy this as well. So before we begin, just want to say welcome to everyone, and see that cute little fellow on the screen. Isn't he cute? He's absolutely adorable. Well, wouldn't be a webinar for parents if it didn't have a picture of baby. So I can see some comments. You guys agree that he is cute. Here's a slightly less cute picture. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. And I want to really say to you to suggest to you to take some notes during this webinar, because we'll be going through lots of information and we'll be going through a lot of content quickly. So, I really think it would be beneficial to take notes, but not only that, ask me questions as we go along as well. Because as we ask questions, we'll learn. So if you have any questions, and if you're watching us if you're watching the recording of the webinar, then by all means email me at cjsohao, that's all one word, cjsohao, at unwrapyoursuccess.com. That email address would have been on your webinar invitation or on the follow-up series emails that you've been getting as well. So hopefully you guys can find me and get hold of me, but at the end of this webinar as well, I will share with you some ways that you can keep in touch with me and we can carry on this wonderful relationship that we've just started. Also, lastly, interaction is key. So for the live participants, I'd really appreciate it if I hear the, feedback from you guys as to how you're enjoying the content. If I ask a question, I'd appreciate a response as well. So, and those of you who are watching the recording, I'd really appreciate it if you could give me some feedback. Any questions you might have, just email them across to me or catch me on social media, and I'll be more than happy to answer them as we go along. So here's the thing. I know something about you. Now, as a parent myself, I know that you're going through a lot of time struggles right now. You're going through, your days, your weeks, your month, and you don't seem to have time to do things for yourself. Now, I know that as a parent, family comes first, and there are certain priorities that you will place upon their goals, their needs, and of course, spending time with family as well. But let's face it, we could all do with a lot more of that. We could do with a lot more of spending time with our families as well. And Parents Productivity Booster is specifically designed to give you just those tools to be able to do that. So along those same lines, I would ask you to ask yourself these questions. Have you done everything you can to achieve your dreams? Now, this isn't talking specifically about what hasn't been possible for you to do, but have you done everything that you physically could? The next question is, are you in control of the outcomes of every situation? And I know from speaking to some of you, that you'd like to be in control of a lot more situations. And do you want to leave a bigger footprint on the sands of time? So if you're anything like me, you've probably answered, and I see some comments coming through, people answering and saying, no, they haven't done everything that they could to achieve their dreams. And you're not in control over every situation that you go through in life. Now, of course, you're not going to be in direct control of everything that happens in your life. That's never actually going to happen. However, there are ways you can take control of certain things that you do which produce certain outcomes. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. And yes, I've seen some of you comment that you would love to leave a bigger footprint on the sand of time. And we're of course talking about leaving a legacy. So I've got another couple of questions for you. So as a parent, we always kind of hear in the past, what we've heard in the past, that technology is going to make our life so much easier. And it's going to free up so much more time, and you know we'll be able to do a lot more in a lot less time. But let me ask you another question. How is that working for you right now? I can see, Camilla, you're saying it's not working for you, and I agree. Technology is a scary thing right now. It's going at such a fast pace that our kids know how to use tablets and iPads and things like that, a lot more than we do. And my son's only 4, and he gets onto all sorts of screens that I can't even get out of half the time or make sense of half the time. And I'm sure the same is true for you as well. But here's the thing. I mean, technology has made life a little bit easier because, if we want, for example, to communicate with anybody across the world, we can do it through social media. Um, some of you on this webinar are on from various different parts of the world. So, it's fantastic, first of all, to see that. And again, welcome from wherever you are right now, including on the recording. And also, we also have wonders of medical technology. I mean, a man could chop his hand off and we'd just sew it right back on, right? And a number of years ago, that wasn't possible. But so technology is not all bad, but I think that for our purposes, it's important to recognize that it hasn't really done what most people thought it would do when the digital revolution came about. So there's a few key objectives today. I'd like you to also think about what you want to get out of this session. But here's a few objectives that I would like to give out for yourself, from me, and what I hope that we will achieve out of this. So we'll look at your goals. We'll look at how to define goals that are right for you. We're also going to look at the psychology of achievers. So what are the things that other people who are successful are doing that some other people who are not successful are not doing? I can imagine that you can relate to the fact that there might be certain behaviors, certain actions, or certain even thought patterns that successful people have that unsuccessful people don't have. And also we're looking to boost your productivity because, of course, this webinar wouldn't be called Parents Productivity Booster if we didn't talk about actually boosting your productivity and getting more done out your day and out your time. So why did I create Parents Productivity Booster? I created this particular webinar, and in fact I've created a whole course called Destiny by Design, and I've created this because I felt that there's a huge need for parents to reconnect with their own goals and their dreams without compromising on family life, so that they can move towards prosperity, freedom, and leave a legacy. So some of those things are a little bit ambiguous, and you take from what you want in terms of what does this mean to you, and what would achieving your goals without compromising on family life mean to you? Ask yourself these questions, and by all means, if you watch the recording at least, pause the recording and you can write down the answers to these questions. They will serve you in a huge way if you do. So prosperity, according to Wikipedia, the definition of prosperity is that it's a state of flourishing, thriving, good fortune, and or successful social status. Prosperity often encompasses wealth, but is not just wealth, so it includes other factors such as, to varying degrees, such as happiness and health. So prosperity is, in fact, is health, wealth, and happiness. Those are 3 ideals and 3 goals that pretty much most human beings have. So you joined me on this webinar and you're thinking, okay, who is this guy? Well, I'm about to tell you a little bit more about myself, what brought me onto this journey. I have 9 years of experience and exposure in personal development. This is through a whole journey of where I went through some difficulties in my life. I wasn't really meeting the goals that I wanted to meet. I was, struggling on all fronts, really. And over time, I gathered a whole bunch of technologies, a lot of which I've actually incorporated into the Destiny by Design formula that you're going to learn about later on today, and created this system for you to be able to duplicate the success that I've now had. I'm also the author of a book called Conquer Your Fears. And now, just to clarify, this isn't about conquering your fears in terms of, for example, the fear of snakes. This is about conquering your fears in terms of your mental barriers to success and to achieving goals, and also to entrepreneurship. Because I'm a big believer that Why spend all your life working for somebody else when you could work for you and then have passive income, which is something that, this is a whole different webinar, but we'll touch on that a little bit later on. I'm also an NLP practitioner, a coach, and an author. And my life purpose really is to elevate people, and particularly parents, to a place of prosperity through highly effective holistic coaching so that they can live their own purpose in life. And just over there is a picture of my family there. And just to guide you through, you got myself and my dad there. You've got my brother-in-law and my brother following that, and my son, who was 3 years old in that picture, but he's 4 years old now. Okay, he's grown up so fast. It's amazing. And following that, you've got my mom, my sister, and my wife as well. And see, I want to share a particular story with you, which is one of the reasons why I put these technologies together in the first place. And see, let me take you back a couple of years ago. And I was at I was having dinner with my wife. We were at the dining table, and I was asking her questions, but I was just getting like single word answers back at my questions. So if you're a guy, or if you can relate, whenever you're getting one word answers from your wife, it's not usually a good thing. So what we did was, obviously we sat down and we spoke for a while, and we realized that actually I was spending so much time going to lots of these personal development events and going out and learning and developing myself, and also working on my business as well. And we realized that I'm not spending as much time as I would like to on my family. So of course I decided to do something about it, because this was clearly affecting myself, it was affecting our family, and it wasn't acceptable to be carrying on that way. So I took some tools and took some training, and I learned from some of the best in the industry. Some of the people that you're seeing on your screen right now, you may recognize. And they are, of course, there's Tony Robbins on the top left there, and there is Andy Harrington, Stephen Covey, Brian Tracy, Donald Trump, Napoleon Hill, and Robert Kiyosaki. And the majority of these people actually I've met personally. I haven't met Napoleon Hill, of course, because he's passed away. Didn't really get to meet Dr. Stephen Covey, unfortunately. I haven't yet met Brian Tracy, but I will do very soon. And here's the thing, these are people that most people would recognize as being successful people. So I would like you to take a moment and think to yourself, why are they successful? Can you guess? So I'll wait for a couple of answers. Tell me why you all think that those particular individuals are successful. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. So some of the things that we're coming up with here is that they have perseverance, that they have big goals, and there's a few other comments that you guys are all right. And here's the thing, I've noticed something about these guys, and what I've noticed is that there are patterns of success and there are patterns of failure. So by studying these guys, and they're all people who came from various walks of life, so most of them came through a whole heap of adversity. And I'm not sure about Donald Trump's himself coming from nothing and building himself up, but the rest of them did. The rest of them were just average individuals, just like you and me, and they became household names, they became famous, they became successful because they followed things that were proven patterns of success. A lot of these patterns of success are in the Think and Grow Rich book by Napoleon Hill, and some of you may have heard of that book. And the other thing I found is that they have very, very high standards for themselves, which means that they are always trying to improve themselves in every area of their life. Now, they're not reliant on what somebody else thinks of them, what somebody else's definition of success is. It is what is their definition of success, and of course being better today than they were yesterday, being better tomorrow than what they are today. And that's how they measure their own success. Another reason why I put this training together is because I read this particular book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by a lady called Bronnie Ware. And Bronnie Ware was a nurse. She was in the 80s. She spent a lot of time um, in hospices and in care of elderly people and people who were pretty much on the what we would say the last throes of life, the last 3 months to last 3 weeks of their life. She would look after people, and she, through talking to them and doing a study, she found out that there are particular things that we tend to regret when we're coming towards the end of our life. And I took a hard look at this and I thought, huh, I really don't want any of these showing up in my life as regrets. So let's go through these. The first one was, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. See, we go through life so much trying to please other people, and when, especially as parents, we end up being yes people to almost everything, including anything our children want as well, and our other halves as well. We tend to want to give all the time. Second one is, I wish I didn't work so hard. And this came up a lot because, most people wish they, work their life away, working for somebody else, and when they come to their retirement or when they do finally get any time to themselves, and wonder where all the time's gone. And I can see some of the comments you guys are agreeing to. Yeah, exactly. We need to make more time for ourselves rather than spending all our life working. We spend too many hours working, not enough hours playing. And third of all, I wish I had had the courage to express my feelings. Fourth is, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Now, how many times, have you thought of, or how many friends have you had in the past where you're thinking, I wish I got to tell this person, how much they mean to me or how much of a great friend they were. And, when you find out they've moved, to a different town or a different country or a different continent, or we've lost them completely from this realm of existence. So, and it's too late then to tell people how we feel. And it's too late to tell our friends how much we appreciate them and spend more time with them. And last but not least, I wish that I had let myself be happier. And this is ultimately the goal of what we are trying to achieve today is, if we've got things that are giving us prosperity, giving us health, wealth and happiness, then we'll be happier and more fulfilled people in all areas of our life. So how many of you agree here that it's better to live a life fully now rather than have regrets later on? And if you're watching the recording, you still need to answer this question. Yes, exactly. And pretty much everyone here agrees that, we need to be taking control of our lives a lot more and living our lives fully so we don't have these regrets later on in life. So the reason why we're here today is to talk about and talk through certain aspects of the Destiny by Design formula that I created. And this unique formula is created so that it can help you not just design your goals, but plan them out for long term in the future and also deliver you results so that you can achieve these goals and be able to do more in a week than most people do in a month. I know that's a bold claim to make, but this is something that I have personally achieved myself. Other people who have gone through this program have also achieved this as well. And it's through a combination of these techniques that we've built into this program that you can achieve pretty much any result that you desire. So what's the first part of this? The first part is to decide what it is that you're looking for. What is the end result? And remember, when we define our goals, we try to be specific and measurable and make sure we put deadlines to them as well. Second of all, we need to put energy behind our goals. So we need to make sure that our values and our beliefs are aligned. And we're going to talk about values and beliefs in the next section in quite a bit of depth. So do stick around. We also need to seek new knowledge and understanding because, and I'm sure you've heard before, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. I think it was probably Einstein who said that original quote. Next, we need to be timely, and timely just doesn't mean to set a deadline to our goals. It also means to actually manage our time effectively. And I've created the ABCDE time management system that We'll go into this in some depth today, but in the Destiny by Design Online Academy, we go far more in depth into this tool. We also need to initiate our goals, which means take action and be productive. And also never give up. And we give you a lesson in perseverance here. And this is very important because a lot of people, and I'm sure you'll agree, a lot of people actually fall down at the first sign of failure. As soon as something doesn't work, they give up and say, oh gosh, this will never work for me. And they'll just move on to the next thing. And then that will never work for them at the first sign of failure. And then they move on to the next thing after that. How many of you can relate to that experience? And last but not least, we need to focus on you and focus on your family. So I like to call this section Sharpen the Saw, where we go through quite in depth in all the techniques and tools that we learned before, and we go into them and say, how can you apply this in all areas of your life and also with your family as well? Because, let's face it, as parents, we want to make sure our family is involved in the things that we're doing, so they don't feel left out, so they don't feel like you're taking too much time away from them. And how many of you have heard of or read the book or seen the film called The Secret? See, that book and movie, it talks about certain things which are a direct result of our own thinking, our own thoughts, and they often lead to what we actually achieve or attract to us in our actions and in our results of our life. So here's the thing, your thoughts become your actions and your actions become your results. There's one more thing that they spoke about in that movie, and it's quite important, which is your beliefs. See, behind your thoughts are your belief patterns, and what you believe is going to direct your thoughts. What you think is going to lead to what your actions are going to be, which are going to determine your results. So we're going to look at how to actually influence and change your own beliefs as well. And there's an important quote that I'd like to probably show you a few times today, and that is, we become what we think about most of the time. So what are values and what are beliefs? Now, values are concepts and ideals that we try to live by, and they're held and they're developed unconsciously. We didn't wake up one day and decide, I know what my values are going to be, and specifically write them down and decide what they were. And they're usually things that are, they're often defined as single phrases or single word phrases, which actually show us, what do we use to motivate us? What do we do to energize and motivate us? And how do we judge what is right and wrong? And obviously these things will determine our own actions in terms of what we do in life. So an example of a value might be honesty. Another value might be health and vitality. And there's certain beliefs associated with these. And beliefs are our rules on how we can live out those values. They are deletions, distortions, and generalizations of the world around us. For example, some people say, I believe that if you're honest, you say how you really feel. Even if that means that you might upset the person you're saying it to, you have to be honest. And if you're honest, you say how you really feel about the situation. Some people might believe that, if I want to be healthy, I can still eat fast food every day. I can eat a packet of crisps, or I can have some fast food every day, or a chocolate every day. And as you can tell, there are certain beliefs that are supportive and they're empowering, and certain beliefs that are not as empowering to us. So we're going to look at some of these. So your values. I want you to pick out a particular area of your life that we're going to work on today during this webinar, and answer this particular question about that area of your life. So let's say your area of your life you've chosen is money. You could say, what's important to me about the area of money? What do I value about the area of money? And you will have certain values that will come up. And I want you to write down at least 3 and up to 5 values for that area of your life. So you might have the area of health, for example, and the value around the area of health might be energy. So energy might be important to you, or let's say, for example, endurance or stamina might be important to you in terms of your health. So I'm going to give you a minute. Go ahead and do that now. And if you've got the workbook that I sent out to you as an attachment in the email, then please do use that. And you can, if you print it out, you can use it, or you can use the Word version of the document and fill that in as well. So I've given you two options in the last email that you received from me. So go through that and fill that out. I'll give you 10 more seconds. And for those who are watching the recording, you can pause this and take as long as you need to. Right, so by now you will have had certain keywords or phrases which represent what you value in a particular area of your life. And now what I need you to do is put a number next to these values in terms of the order of importance. I call this the hierarchy of values. So use that. And when you're throwing these out, let's have a few suggestions as to what you've put down for your values. So I can see, Tolu, you've chosen the area of business, saw that earlier, and you have the values of profitability and value. Okay. Okay, we'll wait for you to type the other one then. So what you do is you put these into an order of importance, and then rewrite those below and put them into the correct order. So the most important value, or the highest one in the hierarchy, goes at the top. So I'll give you another 10 seconds to do that. And guys, still to come on this webinar, we're going to talk about two very important success habits of high achievers. We're also going to test your goals as well. Okay, so in relation to our values, I want to mention one particular, in relation to our beliefs, I wanted to mention a couple of interesting points which I think will be useful to bring up now, because these are a type of belief patterns that a lot of studies have been done around, and they are expectations and expectancy. And ideally, we want to actually live and come from both of those areas and use expectations in the right way and also expectancy in the right way. So what are expectations? Expectations are things that we expect to happen as time goes on. So let's say, for example, I expect to get to work on time, or I expect the bus to be on time, or I expect that my friend will come and see me somewhere, where we're supposed to meet. And as you can probably imagine from these examples, expectations are open to disappointment slightly. So we might expect to be on time, we might expect for the train to arrive on time, but unfortunately that expectation can be not met, and that upsets us. And also, for example, you could have people, you might expect certain things of other people, and they tend not to happen, or they don't happen for whatever reason, and for that reason you then become disappointed in that person or that situation. So I want to give you a couple of stories about expectations and expectancy and how powerful they can be. Now, there was a experiment done with some psychologists, and I don't think anybody in the room today is a psychologist, or any of you replay viewers. But if you are, I hope we're still friends at the end of this. And if you know any people who are psychologists, please don't share this particular experiment or story with them, because they don't like talking about this one. And so what happened was, there was an experiment done in America where they took a bunch of doctors who were psychologists who were working with people who had severe mental health issues. And what they did was they chose a few of these psychologists and said, okay, for the next few weeks, you're actually going to be the patient. You're going to be, pretending that you have got mental health issues. And they chose a few of the patients and said, for the next few weeks, you're going to be the doctor. You're going to help these people out, and we've picked out some, special people for you to work with that, we think you can help. So you're going to pretend to be the doctor. You're going to pretend to help these people. And really interesting thing happened. After a few weeks, what started to happen was that the patients who were pretending to be the doctors started to get similar results in the doctors that were in the patients that they were working with. And what's even more interesting is that the doctors who were, pretending to be the mental health patients in this experiment, over time they started to exhibit behavior of someone who does have mental health challenges, severe mental health challenges. So they developed symptoms of psychosis just by doing this experiment. So you can see how powerful that can be. And there's another experiment that was done as well, which, completely separate. And what they did was they took a principal decided to take 3 teachers into the office and said that we're going to do an experiment, and we've picked out some of the brightest students in the year group. We've done psychometric and IQ tests, and we've picked out 30 of the most intelligent and the best students for each of you. And for the whole year, you're only going to teach these 30 students. And we've chosen you because you are the best teacher that we have in this school. So they gave them this reason as to why they're in that room and why they're chosen for that experiment. And what they did was these teachers taught these students for a whole year. And the scores for these students, the test scores, were not just the best in their year group or in their school, were not just the best in their state, but they were actually in the upper 2 percentile for the entire United States. Now you imagine how many, kids go through school every year in the USA, and these children collectively on average scored in the top 2 percentile for the whole country. And at the end of this experiment, the principal brought these teachers into the office and said, guys, it seems that the experiment has been a success, and you guys have all done a fantastic job, and these kids have obviously scored really, really high on their test scores. And the principal said, actually, there is something that I need to tell you. And he said, actually, these particular students, we didn't really test them. We just picked these out randomly from a list of students, and we didn't do any IQ tests. We didn't test them at all on psychometrically. And to be fair, they're just random students that we picked out for you. And the teachers were shocked. They were thinking, hang on, so if you didn't test these students, and they're not necessarily the smartest students in school, then what could be the reason why they scored so high? And they thought, we know why they scored so high. It's because we're the best teachers in the school. You picked us. We're the best 3 teachers in the whole school, and because of that, that's the reason why these kids scored so highly. And actually, the principal said, I've got another surprise to tell you. And to be fair, we picked your names out of a hat as well, and we didn't do any sort of analysis on yourselves or your teaching style or anything else. You were just picked out of all the teachers randomly, and they were completely shocked. They're thinking, how is this possible? How come these students who were just average students, and they were taught by average teachers, how did they score so highly? And they found that the reason for this was the expectations that the teachers had of the students and the expectations that the students then placed upon themselves. So they expected to do so well, and that's why they ended up doing so well in the first place. And expectancy is another way of viewing our world, and expectancy actually deals with actually being open to anything that happens in life and having less expectations that may disappoint you. So when you live out of expectancy, you actually say, okay, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to leave plenty of time for my journey. There's a chance that a train may or may not be late, and I may or may not get to work on time. Of course, you make the provisions to leave early enough so that if there is a bit of a delay, you can compensate for that. But there's certain things you can't account for. A train may stop on its journey for an entire 15 minutes, and that window of time that you built in to be able to get to work on time is completely blown away. So where's the balance between these two? Here's the thing. You should always use expectations to hope for the best, to expect the best of yourself. And in doing so, you'll bring out the best in yourself. You can also use expectations with your children. Instead of saying, little Johnny, you must study very hard for this test, otherwise you're not going to pass. Instead of saying that, you can say, I expect you to study hard, and because I expect you to study hard, I expect you to get good results. Again, some of that is open to disappointment. It can happen. However, we can, just as in the story we just mentioned, we can use expectations for our own purposes to build those expectations into our children and get good results out of them. And expectancy, we use that to avoid disappointment. So I hope, I totally agree with what you've just said in the comments, guys. You're saying that those are powerful stories, and yes, I totally agree, because they exemplify what is possible when we really focus on certain things. For doctors and patients to switch roles and start exhibiting the opposite behavior is really powerful. And it goes back to what we said earlier. You are what we think about most of the time. So let's touch on different types of beliefs. So there are things which I call empowering beliefs, and you'll see that that picture in the corner. It's basically representing that each value that you have is surrounded by a number of beliefs in that area. So examples of empowering beliefs are, I believe the best is yet to come in my career, or I see opportunities all around me, or there's no such thing as failure. So these are all examples of empowering beliefs. As a converse to that, you can also have disempowering beliefs. Now, some people have these beliefs, which are, for example, everyone at work hates me, or rich people are greedy, or all women are blank, and all men are blank. So these beliefs can really structure how you carry out certain actions and certain things in your day-to-day life. I'll give you an example. There was a lady at work where, she once said to me that, you know what, everyone at work hates me. I'm thinking, really? You mean everyone at work hates you? She said, yes, everyone at work hates me. And so I broke that down a little bit. So I said, okay, so everyone on all 7 floors of this building hates you. She goes, no, don't be silly. Not everyone on all 7 floors hates me. I said, okay, so everybody in your floor hates you. She goes, no, I don't even know everybody on the entire floor. Everybody on the floor on my floor doesn't hate me. I said, okay, so everybody in your team or in your department hates you. And, we worked this through, and it actually turned out to be that there's actually one person in her team who she doesn't really get on with. And as a result of that, she's generalized this, so it turned it into a global belief about everybody at work hating her. So can you imagine how this changed how she lives out her day and how she lives out her life and what she believes about work? Right? It fundamentally can change your own values and beliefs around these particular areas. So it's always a good idea to acknowledge what Buddha said, which is what we think we become. And also what Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Because our beliefs and our belief patterns shape our destiny. So another exercise for you. Working with the area that you chose for your values around earlier, write down some limiting beliefs that you have around this area. So you can start with global beliefs. So for example, all women are blank, or I believe that I'll never achieve my goals in a particular area of your life. And then you can also have if-then rules. So if-then rules, examples are, if I fail, no one will love me. Or if you love me, then you kiss me. Or if you kiss me, then you love me. So think through your own beliefs in a particular area of your life that you're working on for today. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes to write down what your limiting beliefs are. Now, if you say to me, CJ, I don't have any limiting or disempowering beliefs in this particular area, then I'll tell you you're lying. Because if you didn't have limiting beliefs, or if you didn't have disempowering beliefs, then you would be there already. So that whatever goal you want to achieve in that area, you will have already achieved that goal if you didn't have any disempowering beliefs. So also, if you're on the recording, if you're watching the replay, then you need to do this exercise as well, because what we do in the next slide is going to be fundamentally important. So your time, 3 minutes, starts now. Okay, guys, so we're approaching our time very soon. Got about a minute left. So in the meantime, if you have written these down already, then try and see if you can think of any more, or think of some disempowering beliefs you may have in another area of your life, because these are really important to get handled. I mean, until I really examined my own disempowering beliefs, particularly around the area of money, I had all sorts of things going on, like, rich people are greedy, and money doesn't grow on trees. I had that all the time for my dad. And I also heard, you know, if you get a lot of money, then you'll be really unhappy. You'll be bitter, or you'll be like a bit of a Scrooge, and so basically around the area of money, I just felt that if you have a lot of it, you're going to be unhappy. And of course, I didn't want to be unhappy, so I didn't have success in the area of money. Didn't have a lot of money. So these can truly live out, you know, in quite powerful and sometimes painful ways. So, please do write this down. And I think that's 3 minutes. So we've hopefully got these written down now. Now here's what I want you to do. On another page, or if you're in the workbook, on the next bit on the workbook, write out the exact opposite of your limiting belief. Now, I don't want you to just write down the limiting belief in a positive way and just say, instead of rich people are greedy, you might write rich people are giving, or instead of writing I'll never be good enough at work, you write I'm good enough at work. You don't just want to turn it around. What I want you to do is state it in the most positive way possible. So use as many, or the stronger you use positive words, the better it will be. So go ahead and do that now. I'll give you a couple of minutes to write down the opposite of your disempowering belief, turn it into an empowering belief, and use as much positive language as you could in doing this. Okay guys, so we've had a couple of minutes on that now. So here's the thing, your new empowering beliefs now replace your old ones which no longer serve you, and they become what I call incantations. So you may be thinking, what's incantations, what's that about? So here's what incantations are. So you may have actually heard them worded a little bit differently. So some people call them affirmations, and there's a couple of other names out there for them as well. So incantations are phrases that you repeat often through at the start of your day, but also you can use this throughout your day as well. And you say these with feeling, you say them out loud, and you say them with actions. So you don't just, affirmations, I don't particularly like that particular word, because affirmations are kind of like, you could be saying, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. So you're repeating those, but your brain says, BS, you're not happy, you're not even sounding happy. Come on now. So incantations are where you incant, where you say out loud and say it like you really mean it. So you might say, if you're happy, you say, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and say them out loud. Now I know what you're thinking. Some of you are thinking, okay, now you've made me write these out, and now you want me to say these out loud. I sound like a crazy person. Yes, that's exactly what I want you to do. Because here's the thing, right? You can answer this question for me as well. And would you rather be someone who is successful and who's achieving their goals and maybe sound a little crazy? Or would you be someone who doesn't have any success, doesn't follow through on their goals, and has some of those regrets like we mentioned earlier? Yeah, so I can hear, I can see you guys saying, yes, yes, I'm willing to do that. And Sarah saying, yeah, I'm willing to do this and sound a little crazy, sound a little loopy. That's awesome. So I'm glad you guys are following through on these. And this isn't to replace what you've currently got right now, but I've designed a few goal setting incantations that I personally use, and these have helped me a lot. I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I get more done in a week than most people do in a month is through these incantations. So I invite you to say these out with me, or if you prefer, you can also write these down and use these daily. And also, I will send you a copy of the slides as well, so you can actually go ahead and read these and act these out later on. So, here are my goal achieving incantations. I am committed to my goals every day. How you do anything is how you do everything. I write down and review my goals daily. I visualize the achievement of my goals. I take action and stay positive. I accomplish everything I set out to do. And we may visit these incantations a little bit later on in the slides as well. And here's the thing I want you to notice, guys. You probably noticed that I've put a certain couple of phrases here that are actually, things that I'm requesting that you do. And so we call these embedded commands. And I've suggested, for example, that you write down and review your goals daily. I've also suggested that you visualize the achievement of your goals. And also, quite importantly, how you do anything is how you do everything. If you are generally unsuccessful in one area of your life or unwilling to step out of your comfort zone in that area of your life, you probably, exhibit the same sort of behavior in other areas of your life. Now, how many of you think that's true? And of course, referring back to what we said earlier, you become what you think about most of the time. So we're going to go through a couple of success habits, and we go through a lot more of these in the Destiny by Design program. And we go quite in depth into each of these as well. But here's habit one, which is mind orientation. I know it sounds a little bit weird, but what this means is that the way that successful people think is different from how unsuccessful people think. So goal orientation. Goal orientation is when successful people think about the achievement of their goal all of the time. So some people think about how they might not achieve the goal. Successful people think about how they can achieve the goal. The next one is results orientation. So think about, okay, what results can I get and how can I get these results really quickly? So they want to achieve their goals, but obviously achieve them as quick as they can. And the last thing that they think about is action orientation. So action orientation is they think about what action can I take next? They don't think about, oh no, this didn't quite work out and it's I'm a big failure and it's not going to work. What they do is they think about, okay, what can I do to make this work? What is my next action? Okay, I've done that now. What's my next action? Right? That's how they beat things like procrastination. And sorry, the clicking on my slides is a little bit jumbled up. But here's habit number two, what they focus on. So what successful people focus on, firstly, is constraints. So, okay, what is the constraints? What is the bottleneck situation that I'm in right now? And how can I get over it? How can I deal with the one thing that is the biggest constraint that I have? The next thing to think about is the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule is basically based around a principle. I mean, some people refer to this as the 90-10 rule or 95-5 or 99-1, whatever it is. It's basically variations on the same principle. And if you really examine the 80-20 rule, it applies to lots of areas of our life. For example, in someone's investment portfolio, 80% of the results will generally come from 20% of the stocks. Or if someone's doing, trading, 80% of their success will be based on 20% of their trades. Or 80% of success itself is mindset, 20% is, actual strategies and action. So the 80-20 rule applies in a lot of areas of our life, and it's something that successful people pay heed to all of the time. And we're going to go into some depth on this a little bit later on. So just to revisit those again, the incantations, I'd like to invite you to say these with me. And it doesn't matter if you sound like a crazy person, because remember, we want to achieve our goals. We don't want to be the type of person who has a lot of regrets, right? So, I am committed to my goals every day. How you do anything is how you do everything. I write down and review my goals daily. I visualize the achievement of my goals. I take action and stay positive. I accomplish everything I set out to do. So I hope you guys are taking the time to go through these, and by all means repeat these as many times as you need to. So we're going to move on to goal setting. And in your chosen area, set yourself a clear goal which is stated in positive terms, is connected to your strongest values, and you are specific. So if your goal is to, for example, lose weight, you can put exactly how much weight you want to lose and when by. And you state it in positive terms. So I weigh X pounds rather than I want to lose X pounds. You look at your ideal weight or your target, and and you write that down as your goal. And you also connect it to your strongest values. So for example, if my goal is to lose weight and my values are around health and I value having energy, then rather than having my limiting belief, which was, if to have energy I could have a chocolate bar, I can change this around to say I will lose weight, and in doing so, by achieving this goal, I will have a lot more energy, and I can do this by exercise and eating healthy fruits and veg. Okay, so that's quite specific on even how I'm going to achieve this goal. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to test your goal. And I know this is something that Tolu, you're quite familiar with, because we've shared the same exercise before, where we look at how to test your goal in many different ways. And I'd like to invite you to answer these questions in regards to your goal. First of all, what would happen if you didn't get your goal? Second question, what would happen if you did get your goal? Third question, what wouldn't happen if you didn't get your goal? Fourth question, what wouldn't happen if you did get your goal? So I know that the wording around there does sound a little bit confusing, guys, but there's a very important reason for that. So please do go through that and answer the questions as truthfully as you can and as fully as you can. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that, just under 2 minutes to answer those questions for yourself. And also, last but not least, what resources do you need? So what do you need that you don't currently have right now to achieve this goal? And your time starts now. Okay, so I hope I've given you enough time, and if you're watching us on the replay, then by all means pause the recording so you can write the answers down to these questions. So here's something that I firmly believe in, guys, and until I really started following this, my goals were not really being successful and I was not fulfilling any of my plans and my short-term or my long-term goals. So never leave the sight of setting a goal without doing something towards it. And actually, Tony Robbins is the person that I learned this particular activity from, this particular action. And actually, when I do my live events, then I actually get people to write these out as we are there live in the events itself, and we also get them to write down these particular steps as well. So write down now 3 steps towards meeting your goal. So I want you to write down 2 small actions and 1 big action that you can take towards meeting your goal in your chosen area for today. And again, if you're watching us on the recording, by all means pause the recording so you can have as much time as you need to write these down. And as you're writing these, please bear in mind we still have the ABCDE time management system method still to come. And here's the thing, it's very important to focus on progress. And the way you do that is by doing one of these actions right after this webinar or as soon as humanly possible. So where you are right now, it might be quite late in the day, so it may not be appropriate for you to, for example, call someone specifically right now. But when I do my live events, then I actually make the attendees take out the action or carry out that action right there and then. So we could be in the seminar and it's about to be lunchtime, and I say to everyone, before anyone can go and have lunch, you need to choose one of those actions and do it right now. So they're all there with the phones out, making those phone calls or doing that research online that they need to do, and we make them do it there and then. So I really want you to focus on taking action here and do what you could do to get closer to your goal. And if one of the steps that you've written down isn't possible to do right now, move on to the next one. Or if none of those things are something that you can carry out or do right away, right away, or right after this webinar, then think of an action that you could do. Write down something that you could say, okay, I can do this right now. And even if it's a small step, we're focusing on the fact that there is progress here rather than stillness and not doing anything. And just one more time, we're going to revisit our goal achievement incantations because these have the power to change your psychology. And by repeating these often, we are going to rewire your brain, in a fun way and in a positive way. So repeat after me. I am committed to my goals every day. How you do anything is how you do everything. I write down and review my goals daily. I visualize the achievement of my goals. I take action and stay positive. I accomplish everything I set out to do. So now we're going to move on to the very important 7 ways to double your productivity. So these tools here are tools that I've used myself, and you can use these as well, but in the Destiny by Design Online Academy, we actually go through even more ways of doubling your productivity. So I'm sure some of these will be really, really useful for you and fun to do. So the first step is to write out your goals daily. And ideally, you want to do this towards the end of your day. Plan every day in advance. Use the ABCDE method. Apply the 80-20 rule. Number 5 is eat that frog. And don't let that scare you, anyone who's not familiar with that phrase. We're not actually asking you to eat a live frog. It's actually a phrase from one of Brian Tracy's books, and we'll come to that in a bit more detail later on. And be intensely action orientated. And last but not least, get a coach or a mentor. So number one is write your goals daily. So this is what myself and my wife, we do this on a daily basis. We write out our top 10 goals daily before going to bed. And we also review our progress regularly, and often we do it on a daily basis or once a week at least. We say, okay, on our 10 big goals, where are we heading? Are we on track for our 5-year goals? Are we on track for our 10-year goals? And we really, really scrutinize our actions and what we have and haven't done up to this point. And by the way, when you're writing out your top 10 goals, you need to write these out on a blank page on a notepad without looking at what you wrote the day before. Okay, so when you start out by doing this first time, it might sound a little bit difficult, and you will have to go through a few iterations to, make the wording yours, and obviously feel free as time goes on to change out your goals or to change the wording or to amend them as well, because we've done that. And also plan in advance. So plan your goals. Sorry, plan your daily actions towards your goals in advance and preferably the night before. Thirdly, use the ABCDE method. And to manage your time effectively, I have a system where basically if you write down the tasks that you have to do in order to achieve your goal. Now, for a lot of people, and this has been true for me as well, if I think of all the tasks I have to do, then the list is as long as my arm. There's so much to do. And as Kamala said as well, the list is growing all the time. So we have these things. Generally speaking, we know what we should be doing, but because there's so much to do, we tend to overwhelm ourselves, and then we tend to do nothing. So it's a self-defeating kind of cycle. But this is what you do. So you have a list of items of things, for example, that you might need to do the next day, and you must label these items A for things that you absolutely must do. So these tasks are things that you can't avoid doing, and for a lot of people, there might be, one of your A tasks might be going to work because you don't have the choice of not going to work right now. And your B tasks are things that are best to do but not immediately. So these are tasks that are important, but they're not necessarily urgent. You don't need to do it right now. C tasks are tasks that you can choose to do, but they're not really urgent. And if you're anything like me, you may recognize that C tasks and also B tasks as well have a habit of becoming A tasks if you don't take care of them, if you don't actually do them at some point. So we can't leave these forever. So what will happen is your C task will become your B task, and your B task will become your A task, and you must do those, for your goal to follow through and for you to get some progress. D tasks are tasks that you don't necessarily need to do yourself. So they might be simple or repetitive things that you could get somebody else to do. And E tasks are things that you say, okay, I've looked at this and this doesn't actually help me in this particular goal right now that I'm working towards. So even though I might think that this is a task I need to do eventually, so it could be eventual goals or tasks, these are tasks you can eliminate off your list for the next day because they're not serving you right now. So I hope you found that useful, because that, just by doing this, that has improved my life and how I do things, exponentially. And the ABCDE method is the reason why I can actually get, most things done before most people have even, started the day. It's because I do the things I absolutely must do, and I do them quickly, I do them first. Now you might be thinking here, hey CJ, what if I have a lot of A tasks? Because sometimes maybe you've left a couple of things and you've not done them for a while when you should have, and they've all become A tasks. So what you do is you look at those tasks and you say, okay, what is going to get me the biggest result, and what's going to have the biggest consequence if I don't do this task, and label that one A1. And the one that's the next one below that in terms of order of priority, you label that one A2, and you work through those. But you never do B tasks until your A tasks are finished. I hope that's making sense to you. And if you like it, guys, please do let me know. You can email me and you can find me on social media. Just let me know what you think of this system, because I studied many time management systems and literally combined the best bits of the best ones. And there are some horrendous ones out there. And this one I find tends to work for most people because it's fairly simple and it doesn't involve you sitting there for 25 minutes trying to figure out what the hell you're doing. And number 4, apply the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule is focusing on the 80% of your results that come from 20% of your actions. So the way you can practice this is by listing 5 actions that you can take within the next week. And then what you do is you circle the item which represents 80% of the value. So 80% of the results that you're going to get. So if you're watching the recording, guys, then by all means pause this. And if you need more time, then by all means after the webinar, you can go ahead and take all the time you need, and even on a separate piece of paper if you need, write down your actions. Remember, when you're writing these actions down, to focus on progress, focus on the one item that is going to give you 80% of the results. Number 5 is eat that frog. So this is what we were talking about earlier. It doesn't specifically refer to eating a frog. It means pick the one task that is the hardest to do. And generally you'll find that is the 80% item. And it's because this is the task that you've been putting off the most in terms of doing. So find that one task that's the hardest to do in the morning and do that first. So once you do that, it follows that principle that Brian Tracy talks about called eat that frog. And get intensely action orientated. So use positive self-talk and think about, what's my next step? What's my next step? And if you ever find yourself not focusing on your work, think to yourself, back to work, back to work, back to work. Anytime you see those Facebook notifications pop up, just say to yourself, no, back to work, back to work, back to work. And just by repeating that to yourself, it becomes like an incantation and you tend to then start following through. And number 7 is get a coach or a mentor. Now, getting a coach or a mentor is really important because, when you're taking out the goals and actions that you're doing for yourself, the only person that you're generally holding yourself accountable to is yourself. And most of us are pretty nice bosses to ourselves. So what a coach will do is they'll push you beyond your comfort zone. And they'll also hold you accountable. So you're not just accountable to yourself. Now, in my Destiny by Design online academy, you're actually accountable to yourself, to myself as your coach, and also to the other attendees of the program as well. So there's a lot of accountability going on, and it does really push you beyond your comfort zone. So guys, we're approaching the end of our time together, and I want to thank you so much for joining me on this webinar. But I want you to ask yourself this question before we do go. It's, have you gotten great value from this webinar? I can see some comments. Yes, yes, Sarah, yes. Good. I'm really happy that you guys are getting good value from this and getting actionable things, actionable steps that you can take away and do, not just right now, but also in other areas of your life as well. It's absolutely brilliant, guys. And have you gotten some great ways to double your productivity? Each of those 7 ways that we spoke about has the power to double your productivity. So imagine the compounding effect of that. And in the Destiny by Design Online Academy, we'll actually go through far more ways to double your productivity. And let's face it, not every way is going to be suitable for everyone. So you can then pick out the things that are most appropriate for you or the best for you, and use those techniques and maybe not some of the others. So would you like even more ways to do this? Even more ways to be more productive, even more ways to be more effective and more successful? Yes, yes, yes. Thank you guys. Thank you. You guys have been awesome. You've been brilliant in terms of how much you've been interacting. I've been noticing all your comments today. And would you like laser-like focus on your goals? So here's how you can do this. You can actually join me on the Destiny by Design Online Academy. Now, what is this? Destiny by Design Online Academy is the one course, the only course you're going to need to be able to achieve all of your goals in all areas of your life. And this includes 7 intense modules, each of these valued at £90 per session, which is roughly £630. My maths may be a little bit off. But guess what? I'm not going to charge you £630 for this academy. You're also going to get the sessions delivered fully interactive and online, which means that you can interact just like you've been doing today. You can ask questions, you can get answers straight away. The course will be entirely tailored to the needs of the attendees. And that's really invaluable because, where else can you go and get immediate answers on your goals? We've got we're going to give you lifetime membership to the online community that we have on Facebook, a private Facebook group just for the members of the academy, where you can ask any question. So, for example, I might not actually be there, but somebody else can answer your question that you have in regards to something that you're struggling with right now. Or you might be able to get different perspectives, because let's face it, I don't have all the answers, right? And the answer that I might have might not be right for you in that situation right now. So you'll get multiple perspectives from multiple people, which is brilliant value. And this alone is valued at £97 per month. You also get 2 personal strategy sessions with me. Now, I normally charge £90 per session, and normally on one-to-one coaching, people will book out 6 sessions in order to get out the change that they need to get by going through the coaching system. And you will get 1 session at the beginning of the academy where we're going to find out about your goals, and where we're going to actually decide what do you want to get out of this program. And the second session you're going to get is going to be at the end of the academy. So we're going to talk about how did that go for you, what worked, what didn't work, and how can we support you further in achieving your goals, because we don't want our relationship to end. And I really enjoy helping you guys get the most out of this program. So the value there is £180. You're also going to get all the templates, the affirmations, and the tools that I use to boost my productivity and get stuff done. Okay? Value there is £197, but truly, I would say it's actually invaluable, because just by using some of the quick wins and the checklists and the shortcuts that I have, I've been able to, even in my day job, I was able to get a month's worth of work done in the first 10 days. Just by using these techniques. You're also going to get lifetime access to all the recordings for your sessions. And the value there is priceless, because you may think of something that I mentioned or something that we spoke about in the live session, and you think, oh, what was that? What was that? What was that? And you can just go back and actually watch those recordings at your leisure. So here's everything you get. You get 8 online webinars. In fact, that should be 7, so I need to amend that slide. I do apologize. You get lifetime community and support. You get 2 personal strategy sessions. That's one-on-one with me on Skype. You get all the templates, all the tools worth £197. You get lifetime recordings, and the total value there is over £1,097. The usual price for this program is going to be £397. However, I'm not going to charge you those prices. I'm not going to charge you $1,097. I'm not even going to charge you $397. Today only, you're going to pay £197 only. And I know what you're thinking. For everything that you're getting here, how can I possibly be charging only $197? And here's the thing, guys. Those of you who are watching this webinar, and I don't know how long I'm going to keep this webinar up for, by the way. If you're watching this on a recording, I might take this down very soon, because we're getting a lot of interest from people, and I want to keep the groups quite small when we're doing this, because I want to give a lot of one-on-one attention to all the attendees. So you're going to pay $197 because this is the beta group, the founding group for the Destiny by Design Online Academy. And in fact, I'm starting what is bit of a founders club basically for that academy, and for those people only, you're going to be paying only £197. So to sign up, you need to go to www.unwrapyoursuccess.com/Destiny by Design. So that's www.unwrapyoursuccess.com/Destiny by Design. On there, you will find the sign up button and a bit of a breakdown of the Destiny by Design program. And while you're going to that, just going to share a quick video of what some other attendees have thought about Destiny by Design. In fact, there's a slide missing. There it is. Thank you very much, Monica. So Monica went through this coaching program with me, and she actually, managed to do the amazing thing of, task of actually reducing her medication that she's been on, nearly 40 years, and actually, getting rid of the side effects that she was having just through the coaching. So this isn't necessarily something that's just going to be something to, help you advance your career or make more money or that kind of thing. It can help you in any aspects of your life. And Monica had the goal of improving her health, and I'm really proud of her, because even since we made this video, she's actually even reduced her medication further, and her health is constantly improving. So I'm really proud of her. So here's Caroline. Caroline came to one of my live workshops.
So if you want to achieve your goals, the best things you can probably do is go on the Destiny by Design program. CJ has a fantastic program together, and you would be absolutely amazed what it's going to do for you to help you achieve those goals. The best that I like is to do the time management, and that's been really helpful for me, and I'm sure it will be for you too.
Thank you so much, Caroline. And guys, I do apologize for the interruption in that video. I had that keep popping up and I have no idea why. So we will fix that. So guys, make sure that if you want to keep in touch with me, you go to www.unwrapyoursuccess.com. Go on the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/unwrapyoursuccess, or you can tweet me at unwrapyoursuccess and also at cjsohail. I need to put that on the slide as well. Or you can email me, cjsohail@unwrapyoursuccess.com. So guys, remember the online academy, Destiny by Design, is starting soon. We're actually starting on the 11th of November. We had a bit of a technical issue, so we're actually not starting on the 4th, we're starting on the 11th. But please do sign up, and if this is something that you feel is going to help you in achieving your goals, and I pretty much guarantee that it will, because if you go on the page, you'll see I've got my personal unconditional money back guarantee that if you go through this program, if you go through all the steps, then you will achieve your goals. Now, what's the alternative, you may say? The alternative to this is that you carry on how you have been doing right now, in terms of hoping that the goals will kind of take care of themselves, or you take a few actions here and there, and then you slip back into procrastination, and you may or may not achieve your goal. And my aim is to help you achieve your goal as quickly as possible. And I'm going to do something that's unprecedented, something that's actually unheard of on a webinar. I'm actually going to give you away, if you become part of the Founders Club, if you are watching this webinar before I take this down, I'm going to give you a way of actually getting this entire program for free. Now got your attention, right? So here's the thing, guys. Here's my proposal to you. To ensure that you can get your place for free, what you do is you sign up for the program. You will obviously be enjoying what you're going through because you've enjoyed this webinar. And you can then recommend this program to other people that you know. So if you direct people to this webinar, or you direct people to the Destiny by Design Online Academy, I'm going to give you 50% of their fee as a referral commission for you, for helping bring those people on board. So if you bring 2 people on board, you're going to get 50% back from each of those people signing up, which means that you would have paid for your program in its entirety. What that also means, that if you're part of the Founders Club, that you can actually introduce more than 2 people, and you will continue to get 50% as a referral commission back to you for each person that you refer. Now, isn't that incredible? You can actually go through this program, achieve all your goals, design your own destiny, and still be making money as a result of going on this program. As you can imagine, guys, this is a very limited time offer. I'm not going to make this available to anybody else who is not watching this webinar. And when this offer is gone, it's gone. Later on, I'll be doubling the price of this course to $397, which is, it's truer to the value that this program represents. But if you are part of the Founders Club and you introduce somebody and they pay the full $397, well, you're going to get 50% of that too, because I'm committed to making sure that you achieve your goals and you get the most out of this program. So guys, please go to unwrapyoursuccess.com/Destiny by Design, and I look forward to seeing you on the program. Thank you so much for watching this webinar and interacting so well. You've been absolutely brilliant, guys. And for those of you who are watching the recording, the offer is available until I take this recording down. So, that may happen very soon. And it almost certainly will happen before the 11th, when we actually go live with the Destiny by Design Online Academy. But in the meantime, feel free to get in touch with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the program. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.